So I'm... I'm apparently the funniest person in the world. I'm wearing a different shirt. So that's one thing.
Yep, Justin's mom contacted me and told me to tell... Oh, there went the bass.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, to wear a different shirt, so...
Which I didn't wear the shirt for a whole week. I just happened to wear the same shirt.
You said you used to get into... Like, when you were little.
When I was a kid, yeah.
You would like something and you would just wear it every day?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah. I apparently had a Flash t-shirt, like The Flash, the superhero The Flash. Mm-hmm. And I apparently had a Flash t-shirt that I insisted on wearing for months or something. And my mom would apparently have to wash it while I was asleep.
You definitely get your use out of your clothes.
I do.
I mean, this one's from when Penny Nix went to Kentucky.
2017?
2017?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was a while ago now.
Yeah, well, you know, whatever.
You still have your Boulder Boulder shirt from when Adrienne O played the Boulder Boulder?
That was a long time ago.
But back when we were a trio, and the Boulder Boulder is a 10K. And so they hire bands to play along the race route. So you start playing at like 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and we sure did.
We did that.
It was cold.
Yeah.
That was with Amy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Amy Shelley. Amy Shelley, the drummer. Yeah.
Yeah, great drummer.
Yeah.
So, other than my sartorial habits...
We have so much more to talk about than can fit in how long we want these to be. So let's just get down to it. So first thing we did that we're going to talk about last week was we went to see The Killers at Ball Arena. The Killers.
Absolutely phenomenal show.
Oh, I'd heard that this show was really well done. I heard it on the radio. Like, one of the radio DJs was saying that his friends in other cities were seeing this show and saying they were good, but this show is... And it is. It was damn near perfect.
And, yeah. I mean, I always definitely liked The Killers. Mm-hmm. They weren't high on my radar, but and we've, of course, covered several of their songs over the years in different bands, and... showcase stuff, and I've always admired them, but this made me like, wow, kind of one of my favorites now.
Yeah.
I mean, that show was that good.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say one thing I loved is it was a band playing, and they had auxiliary musicians, extra keyboard players and guitar players and backup singers, but that was a band playing. Mm-hmm. I was a little worried because they get pretty synthy sometimes, and I was hoping it wasn't going to be just a totally canned 70% of what you're hearing is pre-recorded, and it was not at all. I'm not sure. There were definitely parts of the show where they were not even on a click track, which for stadium bands is pretty rare. And maybe they weren't at all. If they weren't at all, they're definitely a great band. But yeah, gosh, what were you going to say?
I was going to say we should do some of the analysis that we did in the car on the way home.
Because you're right, it was very close to a perfect show, in our opinion.
Yeah, in our expert opinion. So I don't remember. I mean, I didn't write down which songs they did when, but they came out big. They came out swinging. The first song was higher energy than I expected. Uh-huh. And I was like, whoa, where do you go from here? This first song says, you guys are in for a treat. Yeah. It was like when you were saying on the ride home just now, you were saying to Ari, Bill Burr made a habit of taking his closing bit and putting it first so that he would have to get better than his closer. Right. Like, rather than saving the best for last, he would move the best to the front. He would start
with the best thing that he had.
And so when they came out with, I don't remember which song, but it was a big hit and it was high energy, I was like, oh boy, where are they going from here? Yeah. Then the second song opened with some sort of ballady piano thing, and that is the only thing that I thought was imperfect, in my personal opinion, my experience of the show. I'm a medium Killers fan. I'm not a crazy Killers fan. And so whatever song they played second, I didn't recognize. And I thought the ballad, it was like maybe 1 or 1.5 minutes long. I thought it was energetically way off for that part of the show. But
Yeah.
you were thinking it was like an extended intro to some...
It was an extended intro to the
Yeah.
to the next song, and I think it was off of one of their newer records that we're maybe not as familiar with, because there were a lot of people in the crowd were singing along.
Okay.
So
Cool. It was a little bit of an in-crowd moment then, which is fine.
which might have been a little early for an in-crowd moment. I think
Maybe.
I think your point stands.
Yeah, because in the first couple songs, you're still saying, "Hey, for those of you who don't know us, here's who we are. You're gonna have a great time."
I didn't write down which song it was, but they did the classic, like, okay, here's the high point. This is where they're going to drop it down, and they sure did, and they dropped it down and did a couple ballads, and then they kind of came out of it, and then they kind of went down again, and that part...
That was the other... maybe not perfect part of the show for us.
Yeah, for us. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong.
It was still one of the best shows I've ever
10,000 people were enjoying it just fine.
Who are we to critique this? I mean, but, you know.
Just talking about, this is the kind of thing we think about and we talk about all the time, and that's what we do on the podcast.
And we love seeing how breaking the formula can work, too.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
And those guys are at a level where they don't have to follow the rules. And in fact, I was having a really interesting discussion with Jonathan Greschler from Half Zen, who was also at that show. And he thought basically, like, the Brandon Flowers, the lead singer of the Killers, doesn't need to be following any of the rules of stagecraft that we always talk about. But that he basically was, because that's just kind of what works. But then other times he was breaking the rules big time and doing stuff that, whatever, but it didn't matter because huge arena, you've got the crowd on your side, you've got, you know, the Jumbotron monitors, you know, playing everything. But it was just interesting that he was doing whatever he wanted, but it most of the time would be like, oh, well, that's what you would tell anybody to do. Like, you know,
in terms of like movements and placing,
placing around when he was moving, the first word, first move thing. He was. Jonathan pointed out that he was like excellent with that, and that he really was. He was all over the stage. Yeah. I mean, the way they had it set up, the lead singer was really. I mean, what is that? 60 feet. Maybe,
yeah, I mean,
you know, it was a huge amount of space, and he really was working that entire area, but he was doing such a great job of not just running back and forth randomly.
Right,
he was working an area, moving to somewhere else, working an area. He had a little keyboard stand setup thing in his front position. And then closed the show perfectly. Perfectly.
So we had like the typical flow, basically.
Right.
Through the what would normally be the 2/3 to 3/4 dip, and then out of it, and then it went like kind of into no man's land for the formula, and then back down into another quiet moment, and we were like, oh gosh, like how long is this going to be? This is the moment we were like,
that's where I was thinking,
this, but like how long is this show?
Yeah, there must be a lot more to the show
because we have to get out of this to the end of the show.
Yeah,
so. They did that. They came out of the second one. They came out big. I mean, the production was incredible. The visuals were incredible. There was multiple confetti cannon stuff. There was laser lights. There was
the LED
backdrop.
It was the whole thing.
It was so original and so beautiful. So the end of the show. And...
long encore break.
Yes. Oh, I think it was like 3 or 4 minutes. There was a droning sound, and there was like a bit of blue light. But
which I think was their way of saying, this isn't over.
Yeah.
Like, but we're also going to make you wait a while.
Yeah. It got to the point where I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Just for a moment.
But it built the suspense.
Yeah,
like, people weren't, you know.
So then they came out and did a hit, The Man.
Yeah.
Which had incredible
the visuals.
Oh my gosh. The LED backdrop had, they designed this... It started with just like Greek sculptures.
It was the Statue of David.
Okay, so but like the light was moving around the statue, so it, you know, in the video, so it looked like
it looked incredibly 3D.
And then they had all these other statues come in with all different lighting on them. I don't know if it was various ones superimposed or what, but it looked like they had brought in an entire collection of marble statues and were lighting them up from different directions.
Yeah.
It went with the light that was going out on stage too. Like the lights were all synced up, so it looked like it was surreal. So they did that song. Then they brought Johnny Marr out.
Finally saw Johnny Marr. I think I've missed him 3 times in the last 3 years.
And who is he?
Johnny Marr, most famous for being the guitar player for the Smiths, personal hero of mine, which everybody knows him as. They go, Johnny Marr. Doesn't Justin like your guitar playing? No, he was a guitar player for the Smiths, and then he had a big hit in the 80s that was in a bunch of movies, and then he's done solo stuff, and he's played with Modest Mouse and a bunch of other people. Johnny Marr is like indie rock Eddie Van Halen. He's the greatest guitar player of indie rock. He's kind of the like, oh my God, innovator, and of course a hero of mine. I was telling you when we were walking back from the show, like when I was younger, it better be distorted guitars and loud, or I didn't like any of it. But the Smiths and Johnny Marr was cool because like those guitar parts are just cool. They're not big and distorted, but they're just super cool. Anyway, Johnny Marr came out and they did the Smiths song "Gentleman." Well-conditioned gentleman. I can never remember exactly, but they did a Smiths cover with Johnny Marr. The Killers did, which was that thing we talk about in encores, where it's great in an encore to throw them a wild card, left field. You weren't expecting that. It's a weird cover, or it's a special guest, or they kind of did both. And then they did maybe what we thought was the best part of the night.
And we are going to steal this idea.
We are absolutely going to steal it forever.
So they had not yet played their biggest hit, their original hit, Mr. Brightside.
Which is still by far their biggest hit. It has been a number 1 hit in the UK every single year since it came out in 2005.
Oh my gosh.
It's the longest running number 1 hit in the UK.
Wow.
It's always been number 1 since it came out. And apparently they like it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think that's why Johnny Marr was there, because he's British.
Man. Anyway, but they didn't just play the song. They played a reharmonized, slowed down, different groove version of Mr. Brightside. The cat's getting into your gear. She wants to be inside your gear.
Yeah, she just...
Anyway, so it was different chords under the melody, and it was a slower tempo and a different drum groove.
And it was kind of a dreamier, pulsing version of it.
Everybody was singing along to it, though, of course. Everybody sang along.
And the lead singer of the Killers was more encouraging the crowd to sing than he was singing it.
Oh.
He started it, and then was sort of more... And they went through pretty much the whole song, that I never... You know, the whole thing...
And I was like, this is great, but this is not quite the hit. Like, it doesn't like I'm feeling great singing along with everybody in the arena.
And everyone was singing. It was unbelievable. Super loud.
So it was like 99% fulfilling. But I was like, but it's not the exact hit. And then you hear do-do-do-do-do-do.
And they launched into the full version. Yeah, they weren't doing the guitar hook.
Right.
Like, they were playing it, but they weren't doing the guitar hook.
Right.
And everybody in the stadium sang the song, and then they jumped in on the guitar hook.
And the place went wild!
And the place went wild. And then they just basically played the song a second time.
Yeah.
Only now the lead singer sang the whole thing, and they played it like they normally play it.
And I'm jumping up and down.
It was so satisfying. And they were so smart to do that because it's not a super long song in the first place. 3 minutes, maybe. And if they just played the song, as much as everybody was there to hear that song, it wouldn't have been enough of a big moment. It wouldn't have been cathartic enough to end the show. I don't know if cathartic is really the right word for it, but it wouldn't have been a big enough emotional thing. But when they did the song twice and let the audience sing it once, and then they did it, it was like, I'm fully satisfied.
Yeah. There were a couple times that we told each other that we had tears in our eyes because things were so perfect.
They just were like...
It just, that show got me.
It was a perfect rock and roll show. They just from the first song, I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is just what it should be.
I was just feeling like, man, I'm alive and this is happening and I'm in it and I'm so happy.
Yeah. They really nailed it. Huge Killers fan at this point.
Yeah. We both bought t-shirts.
Yeah.
Actually, we bought the t-shirts before the show. We're doing
Well,
that
that's
now.
a new thing we're going to do. We're going to buy t-shirts from places we've been.
Well, that also fulfills your mom's desire for you to wear
different shirts.
clothes.
And not shirts, not clothes that someone just gave me. The amount of my life, my entire wardrobe has just been clothes that someone gave me.
That's what I see you wear.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a shirt from the festival we played.
Uh-huh.
You still wear the Boulder shirt that was free.
To the gym.
Oh, you don't wear it around?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But, and back in the old days, people would give you jeans and, like fashion companies and stuff would give you clothes.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So, anyway, gosh, Killers, amazing show. And that was Wednesday night?
Yep.
Thursday, did we do anything?
No.
Who knows?
We didn't. We just at least chilled out on Thursday.
Yeah.
So then Friday.
Friday was a big day.
Yeah, we had rehearsal with Cody Qualls and the Brand New Ancients, and then we had photo shoot with Cody Qualls and the Brand New Ancients.
I know, and neither of us have done a band photo shoot in quite a while. I mean, we've done them with Petty Nicks, but it's been a while. Mm-hmm. We're not really booking off of that kind of thing anymore.
We're booking off all of the stuff on the site is live.
Right, it's live, yeah. So, and then Adrienne, of course, we haven't done a photo shoot in a while.
Yeah.
So it was interesting doing a band photo shoot.
Yeah. I've gotten way better at taking pictures.
Oh, you were great.
Oh, I for the photo shoot for my first original album cover, I hired a guy who's like a fashion photographer out of LA. I mean, like, his portfolio was amazing. And it was kind of funny because when we shot, he was like, "Yeah, baby, give it to me, baby. Yeah, a little bit more." And I was like,
I couldn't give it straight.
I can't do this. But so he figured out that didn't work on me. And we got no usable photos out of that shoot because at the time, I didn't know how to arrange my face. There's a skill.
There is absolutely a skill to it. And I realized I've drifted, this is one thing we were talking about, I've drifted so much into this new aesthetic that we've kind of developed with Adrienne, where you do want things to look just very real. So sometimes it's a little awkward and there's like a weird hand thing and they've caught you in the middle of a gesture or something, and like that's what you want.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, that's not maybe what Cody wants, and that's not what the photographer was going for, and it was like, oh, I haven't done this straight photo shoot thing in forever, like
5 people standing here. Yeah.
And he did an amazing job. Oh my God,
there's
Scott.
So many
we can,
Melanson.
If anybody, I would highly recommend him, and we can of course connect you if.
She
if
is trying to get into.
She loves to sleep in bags.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's too much stuff. I'll have to pull some of that out for her later.
But rehearsal was really effective. We have kind of rearranged some of Cody's tunes to break them open and make them more momenty.
Right, we're turning it into just more of a show. Mm-hmm. So some songs stretch out. There's some longer solos. There's some breakdowns. There's some
audience participation moment.
Just kind of letting some of that stuff land. And it went great. Love playing with Greg Tan.
Yeah.
And Brian Stacks, of course.
Yeah.
So during the day, we did the rehearsal, and then we went to downtown Denver near our studio and did the photo shoot Friday night. Saturday, we got up, and we had to get to Steamboat Springs.
Yeah.
Terrible mountain traffic, even though it was a Saturday.
Memorial Day weekend traffic. I would have thought that we left at 11:30. I would have thought by then everybody was where they were going to be.
Given that it's a holiday weekend. Yeah.
But no. I mean, I should know by now. Traffic on I-70. We had about an hour-long slowdown, but we got there in time. Not a big deal. We were playing for a wedding, so we had some different shows this weekend. Well, two different shows for us this weekend.
Right.
Where this was the first time Petty Nicks has actually played at a wedding. We played for a post-wedding party in
that's
August.
right.
But this was at the wedding. Like, the ceremony
This was the
around
wedding
the corner.
reception. Yeah.
And we didn't know how it would go. It's just a different situation.
It very much is. And it was a big, huge room that was all glass, all windows. I mean, it was gorgeous because you could see the mountains. And, I mean, I never take pictures, but the location was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Picture postcard thing, which we mentioned on the ride home. We're driving home on I-70, and it was like, it's so easy. It's bizarre that you get jaded to, like...
I know.
It's just, it's only... a picture postcard view. Like, why would I even comment?
Why would I even take a picture of that? I see that all the time.
Yeah.
We live in Colorado.
Anyway, so we had to be very quiet for one thing, particularly the drummer, Ryan. Unbelievable to play that well, keep the tempos going that well, and play that quietly. That's an insane amount of control.
Yeah. And it still rocked. I mean, it wasn't like we were playing like background music. We were still dance music, and people danced. They ended up loving it. They did love it.
They loved it. They were dancing a ton. And don't get me wrong, we were totally rocking out full bore. It's just Ryan couldn't be real splashy and stuff
because the sound would all bounce
because
off
all the
windows.
And he did an amazing job of. That guy's a fucking great drummer. But gosh, takeaways from that.
We shouldn't doubt ourselves, I guess.
Well, that's one.
We were like, the thing about playing a wedding is, what if everybody at the wedding isn't as much of a Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty fan as the people who hired us?
With this act, yeah.
But it went over great.
Yeah.
It really did.
I guess that's a residual thing, because we've both been... It's just something that's going to happen as a musician, where you get hired for a gig and you are not what they want.
Yeah.
They probably shouldn't have hired you. They maybe thought you were something different, or they just didn't really check, or whatever. I did that one gig I always talk about with a dance band, like a top 40 modern dance band. And it turned out to be a bunch of like 50, 60, 70-year-old retirees. And they had not heard any of those songs. Oh. And they kept being like, hey, can you play Grace Slick?
And my gosh.
And I'm like, I know it, but I guarantee you this band does not know any CCR. It's a top 40 dance band. They're playing the music that's on the radio today. Like, it's not, and it was just a wrong booking. Anyway, the wedding that we did went great.
It went great.
They were lovely people. It was really it was really, really great. And
so we stayed up until 2:00 in the morning, hanging out in the lobby, as we do. Having fun. So then we got up late, drove home, slept all afternoon.
We did. I sure did.
I sure did too.
Yeah.
We both, yeah. And then we got up in time to go to the next gig, which was another new one for us. We did an acoustic, I guess, half unplugged sort of set. So it was basically 6 of us, just Ryan was not there on drums. So there was the full band.
Just no drums.
No drums. Ryan gave me a cajon, so I banged on the cajon a little bit. Just 3 or 4 songs.
You ran the set doing shaker and tambourine, though.
I
really
did
an amazing job of that.
Oh, thank you.
And that really kept the whole thing together. And
it was fun. I was trying to.
It was a lot of fun.
I was trying to not overdo either of the instruments. Like, tambourine can get old after a while.
Yeah.
But it was fun just making up different ways to play these instruments. Like the shaker is supposed to, you're supposed to play it like this. But sometimes I would like hit it like this, or like tap it.
Right.
Or, just do different.
To get some backbeat.
Just to get some different feel.
Clap.
So I wasn't always just like shika, 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 shika.
Right.
And the tambourine, that goes like this normally. But I was also like holding it and like hitting it. I was just like, just finding different ways to play it. And it was all in the moment. So it was really fun.
And we were all sitting down, and it was in a backyard, lighting, beautiful backyard. And although I stood up about halfway through because I was like, I just can't play something. I had a blast. It made me like, oh my gosh, it made me so happy enjoying playing with Stax, because rather than playing keys and a million different instruments, all Brian Stax was doing was playing acoustic guitar and singing in the back, and we were just having the most fun figuring out how to like lock stuff down and lock it together. And like, we didn't do a rehearsal for this. We just were like, we'll just go, we'll just play. It'll be, you know. So we'd start these songs, and I'd be kind of like looking back at Brian, and we'd kind of go, you want to put this drum here? Like,
no way.
And like kind of here's the accent.
Oh, I love it.
And we started, you know, and we go, oh, okay, I see, we'll do that strum pattern. And we were just like, and it was just so effortless. And he's such a musical guy where he's just like,
oh, I know.
You know, he's such a musical person, and it's so easy to just be like, you know, my thing, okay, we'll do my thing, you know, like, and then vice versa. I'm like, no, I'm on you. And we were just the whole time, and we played 2 hours
by accident. I made the set list,
but still
longer.
Yeah, and still the classic thing where, you know, everybody's loving it at the end, and they're like, oh, play more songs, and we're like, we just played for 2 hours straight. Anyway, it was great grooving with Brian in a different way than we normally get to do, because we were both doing the acoustic guitar thing and not the, you know, big washy electric thing.
Yeah. It is so cool having played together in so many different situations with some of the same people, because there's some mind melding that goes on.
Right.
You know, you just... You don't have to say much.
Oh, and with Ari, the same thing, where I would like, you know, and Ari was to make up for not having a drummer. See, the thing is, when you have a drummer and when you're playing electric guitars sustain, meaning you can hit a chord and it will make an even amount of noise for kind of a while. When you're playing acoustic, it doesn't do that. The guitars, in terms of like it being in a band, it fades out very quickly. So you wind up where when I play electric guitar, I leave tons of space and whatever. But when we're playing acoustic, like you really got to fill that space up. And Ari on piano was doing the same thing, where he was really filling in to just kind of make up for the fact that there was less percussion. And we were also just kind of like looking over my shoulder at him and going, you know, let's do it. Oh, we're doing it eighth notes, not 16th. So we're going to do it 16th to kind of keep it driving. Just like, where are you putting the groove? Like, let's all... But it was so fun because we played with those guys enough. It was just, we could all kind of like...
Yeah.
All right. You know?
Yeah.
Just like have this little like vote with our eyes.
Yeah.
Like, let's all vote on... Which is interesting because we're all wearing sunglasses, but we were still...
Really?
Yeah, it's still falling off.
You're still reading each other's minds through sunglasses.
I guess. I don't know, now that I think about it.
Funny.
Yeah, so that show was great. Turned out...
Yeah.
I was blown away at how well it went.
Yeah, the guy who hired us said he wants to do it every year. Make it an annual thing. I'm like, okay.
Absolutely.
Just let us know.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then tonight, we did Taste of Colorado. If you're being technical, we closed down Taste of Colorado. I suppose we headlined. I mean,
there's 4 stages. We were the
come
last.
on,
We were the last
you
one
know,
on the stages.
Yeah, it's no big deal. Did not get a chance to say hello to Emma, who is the young lady who's the booking person. Books a lot of stuff.
Okay.
Also did Parker Days. That's where I met her.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, thank you to Emma for having us. And we, of course, got to run into people we like, Dave and Rachel.
From Deerling Revival.
Deerling Revival. They were playing before us, just like at Parker Days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's odd that it worked out that way. And they, of course, did great.
She has such a great voice.
Great voice.
That whole band is made up of monster musicians.
Monster. And Dave is like... He's great. He's the greatest. Really, really great. Just super tasty, super great tones. I thought the show tonight was great. My biggest takeaway, wow, actually, here you go. Here's your headline. I fell on stage.
Oh, you did.
Super hard.
You seriously did. That was like that was a foot on a banana peel cartoon fall.
I really fell hard, and that never happens to me. I think the last time it's been 15, 20 years. I mean, we used to run around when we were kids. We ran around like crazy so much that we fell down all the time. But that was part of the show. like tackling each other and stuff.
It was a pretty rock star fall.
It was. And I went back to look at why I fell, because it wasn't even like I was like running around. I was just kind of.
No, we were doing a hit. We were doing
a hit, and I was just kind of like leaning towards Julian, and I was moving towards him towards the middle of the stage, and I came down with my front foot, and it just went right out from under me, and then both my feet did, and I landed on my hip.
I'm really glad,
because it was one of those things that it was so slow motion. Like as soon as I slipped and realized there was no correcting it, I was falling for like a full minute. I had tons of time to figure out how I was going down.
Okay. It was just dust.
It was just dust. Yeah, I went back to look because the slip felt like I slipped in water or something. So I thought as soon as I slipped, I was like, oh, somebody must have knocked over a water that I didn't see. And I went back, I got up and went back like a little later in the song. I was like, let me figure out what I slipped on so I can clean it up. And it was nothing. It was just a dusty, greasy, dusty stage. And actually the whole night it was insanely slippery for me in my position everywhere.
Interesting.
Here's the real rule, and you see me do it at sound check all the time, and I didn't do it tonight.
Oh.
If you are going to move around on a stage, you need to move around that stage before the show starts. So you'll often see me at sound check. While we're sound checking, I am pacing the entire stage. I'm walking up in Vic's area. I'm walking up in Julian's area. I'm walking in your area. I'm walking back to the drums and everywhere. And I walk all over that stage so that I know what's going to be under my feet. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to move on stage, you absolutely need to check that out before you start running around on stage. Granted, other times, maybe like our showcase, maybe different shows, you don't get a chance to do that. You just got to perform as hard as you can. Anyway, in general, if you have time to, you need to move around that stage. And that's the one time I did not walk around and feel that stage out, and I fell.
Interesting.
And that's why I always do that. And I didn't today, and I
You think you would have noticed how dusty and slippery?
I think I would have noticed how slippery it was. I mean, I hope I would have noticed. I don't know for sure if I would have noticed, because it was like I was feeling a little slippery under my feet, but I certainly didn't think it was bad enough that I would just kind of like make like a forward step at Julian kind of hard, and it just, I thought it was a puddle of water. Like it was just so slick. No, I think it was just there'd probably been 10 bands on that stage, and it was just a bunch of dirt and
I mean, the 3 days that stage has been up for 3 days.
So yeah, it was like it was just coated. I couldn't, because I was also trying to kick it out in my position. I was just trying to kick dirt out so I could get like some clean adhesion, and there was no, as much as I was kicking, I couldn't kick all the dirt out to get like I just wanted like one spot where my shoe would catch, where I could, and I couldn't do it. That stage was
all
filthy.
the little things that you learn. I mean, next time we do a festival that's been going on for 3 days, that's had a total of 16 bands on it or whatever. No, 4 to maybe 12 bands.
Yeah, but still,
we need to wipe it down a little bit before we play. I mean,
or bring a carpet or some, something. But yeah, that was a. But the big takeaway is, if you're going to move around on stage, you need to check it out and make sure you're okay. And you also need to frame yourself when you're doing a podcast. Although, I say it all the time, that is kind of what doing music is. Very often you relearn lessons over and over. You learn something, you know it, you tell yourself that's never going to happen again. And then a few years later you get lazy or you get lax or you just sort of forget, and you relearn that lesson. Mm-hmm. And I know that's what's happened to me my whole life. It's like so many lessons I've just relearned over and over again. And you're like, I'm fine. I don't really need to do that. And you're like, something goes really wrong. And you're like, nope, back to knowing that's learning my lesson. Other than that, though, and I mean, I fell super hard. I totally wiped out. Like there was no pretending like that didn't happen.
No, it was both feet in the air, butt on the ground.
Yeah, it was definitely, I'm pretty sore already, but
you can be bruised. I know.
Yeah. Anyway,
other than that,
the crowd went great.
The show was great.
The crowd was amazing.
We had a lot of energy, and they were giving it back to us.
Yeah, very much.
They were, and I I really felt it. So there's a couple things that were great for me tonight. One is this was our third show in a row, so my voice was tip-top. My voice gets better when I sing more.
Right.
Surprise, surprise. But on our first of the 3 shows this week, it's been a month since we've done a Petty Nicks show. It's not that I haven't been singing, but my warm-ups I don't veer into Stevie Nicks territory when I warm up because there's a lot of tension in that production.
Yeah.
And I know the songs backwards and forwards by this point, so I don't want to sing them for practice. So I found during the first show, the wedding, that the Stevie Nicks tremolo was hard to produce.
Right, I'd mentioned, we talked about that
I had to really make it happen, and it wasn't always the even vibrato spacing or amplitude. The second night at the acoustic one, my voice had markedly improved. It wasn't 100%, but it was much better than the night before. And then tonight, my voice was spot on. It was exactly where I wanted it to be. I could just rely on it. It was very Stevie. So that made me feel more free. And that allowed me to go off on stuff because I knew I didn't have to think about my voice performance. And then I was just really feeling gypsy tonight.
Yeah, that was
Gypsy took me a little further than it normally does.
And it got a huge response. Like, you went hard on some of the bigger parts. And it probably had an even bigger response than Landslide, which is usually your big...
Yeah, interesting.
But you hit it real hard.
Well, that's... there's just something in my life that's made me feel like a gypsy today.
Yeah.
I made some plans for some travel that is farther away than I've ever gone. I'm going to the other side of the world. So is Justin. Mm-hmm. We are going to go to New Zealand in February. Just bought the tickets today, and I'm a little nervous. And that's weird because I used to like to travel.
Right. And
so I had to fight with myself to buy them. But I used to be more of a gypsy. And so I was thinking about that when I sang this song. Like, I've lost touch with the part of myself that was an exchange student in Spain for a year and that, went back to see friends in Europe every few years if I could. And then around 2011, that was my last trip, 2011 when we met.
Right.
I had just gotten back from that, and I don't think I've taken a trip across the ocean since then. Right?
No, I mean, we've been to Mexico and
stuff.
But
not
that's
like...
not really it.
Mexico's just like California with Spanish.
Yeah, right. With slightly more Spanish.
Yeah.
Well, that is an example of one of the things we talked about earlier in the summer of bringing that real personal feeling to the show, which we talked about in the context of the stories and so on. And I think people respond when you've bought in. It's 2/3 of the way through the show or whatever it is. And so you've made a relationship with them, but then when you share something real, it just lands. It's appreciated.
And this one, it's not like I didn't really talk about Gypsy.
I
did my standard intro about Gypsy, but I connected to something real in myself, and that drove me to that song. And Ari said he got goosebumps, like he said as I walked off stage. And I was like, yeah, man, you heard the real deal going on.
That's what I mean. That's where you're just like, I'm giving it some real... it was great. It was fun to... I really enjoyed playing to a cold crowd, meaning they weren't riled up by anything, by an opening act or whatever, and...
Well, there were other bands.
Well, there were, but it had been like an hour in between because there were other stages.
Yeah.
So Taste of Colorado, it's a big festival. There were other stages. The stage we were on, there was an hour break. There was a band at some other place, but it wasn't really the same people. And beyond that, they were also people who just didn't know us. And not that we're famous or whatever, but it's common that at shows we do, especially like the theater shows and stuff, a lot of the people there have seen us before and they do know what we're doing and they're looking for things. Maybe they've only seen us a couple times, but you get a different feeling. This crowd there were people that have seen us a million times, Joanne and Janice and I think Yolanda was there, and I don't know. Sorry if I missed anybody, but there were people there. But also of the 200 or 300 people that were out there, whatever it was, most of them hadn't seen us and didn't know what to expect. And there was a lot of fun in like, oh, you know,
converting them,
and you don't know what's about to happen. I know what's about to happen.
Yeah,
and we're gonna show it to you. And it was kind of fun. It was a different. You know, and also I would say a cold crowd in the sense that not that they only didn't know us, they also weren't there to see us in particular. They were just attending a festival, and we just happened to be doing Tom Petty, Stevie Nicks stuff. Mm-hmm. They didn't come going, oh, I know I'm going to whatever. They were just at a festival, and this is what happened. Mm-hmm. And it was really fun, kind of interacting. It was a different energy, you know. I don't know. I had fun other than that one spot.
Yeah.
You're
going to be sore. It's going to be a bruise.
Yeah, at least no one kicked me. The old no address rule was...
Kick them when they're down?
Yeah. It was a good... It was a good way to relieve some pressure. We were under
the band.
We were under a lot of pressure, and we were traveling, and we were around each other all the time. And so the rule was, if you went down, everybody gets free kicks until you get up.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, it was a good release valve. Like, you don't just want to go kicking people, but if they fall, this is my chance to, you know, this is for talking too loud in the morning. Like, just like.
I wouldn't hack it in your band, not even close.
I wouldn't hack it in that band now either. Yeah, we were true maniacs. Good times. All right. So, well, gosh, we went a little long. Sorry about that.
Yeah. We had some good stuff to talk about.
Big week, big month.
Oh boy, yeah.
So
this
week we've got Jenny Shawhan. I've never done that gig before. You have, although you've done it on bass. Now you're singing on this one. And we're doing a show with Cody.
2 shows.
2 shows with Cody. Oh, that's right.
One of them's in the morning at Red Rocks.
Right.
For the 9/11 stair climb.
Right. So we're doing a Red Rocks thing. And gosh, then we got one more after that with Cody. We're at Boulder Dinner Theater with Cody.
Yeah.
And then we're at Boulder Dinner Theater with Patty Nicks.
Yeah. We're doing the same thing with Nieces, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I think.
Wow.
Totally different bands, though.
Yeah, boy, we're...
And you know, I play a different role, too. So.
Yeah, I know. It's a completely different thing.
It's so funny to, like, step from being front person, like, look at me, I'm the center of attention, and...
Right.
You know, to being a support role of playing bass. I love it. I love both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's really fun. And some of it, I'm sure, is just the variety.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, let's shut this one down so you don't drive yourself crazy. It's too long. Too long.
I'm going to cut some stuff out.
Whatever. Okay, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. See you next week.